Thank you for accepting to present your research project to the Year 12s of the Future. I need to clarify that you have a merit research project, which means merit evaluation as well. And I would like you to tell us how you went about getting that result.
All right, so my question is, in Australia, which brand of knee replacement has produced the most successful results in patients of all ages in the previous year? And so I chose that question knowing that I would have many primary sources to talk to because my family's involved in the medical field and I was interested in being involved in the medical field at the time. So I knew that with that answer I'd be able to get plenty of primary sources, which is what I think they look for. They want to look at research that's actually valid and that has come from people who know what they're talking about. And so in my proposal I just outlined that this is why I've chosen the question, because I'm interested in medicine, that I'm going to be able to talk to this many people, that I had an idea at this stage who they would be, but I've left their names private all the way through because for confidentiality purposes, if anyone was to look at this, because it's comparing companies, so it's very specific and it's it basically puts one company above the others. And so if anyone was to look at that and think this is not, this is putting my company sort of below, which was based on facts, then that's why I kept names private, because they were from the company.
Otherwise it would be unethical. So you maintain ethical research methods.
Yes. At the end of every section, so at the end of my proposal, I did a reflection which basically talked about my capabilities, why I had, what capability that reflected, and at the top I've got like a key which is important, because that way when the moderators go through, because they're only going to be looking at it for, I don't know, up to about a very short time, a few minutes, they want to see what they're looking at very quickly. And so I looked at the scaffold and what they were looking for in the scaffold, and so I got refinement, because one of the things they wanted to see how you refined your topic, and so I highlighted everything that was showing that I'd refined in grey, and that's all the way through there as well. Capabilities, that's probably one of the most important ones. If you want to show them that you're developing, your capabilities, so everything is all the way through what I developed this year, and then I explained how I'd done. It was my main one was the personal and social capability, because I was conducting interviews with people that I hadn't ever spoken to before, and they were, they spoke very medically, and so it was important that I developed social skills, and that's what I explained in there. Yeah, planning, that's important because I want to see how you plan. And basically I bolded really important points, so if they want to skim read it, they were going to see very quickly what the main points of the folio were. And that's really important with your folio, because you want to make it full of really good information and also very relevant information to the question. That's why if you have a broad question, you're going to have to put in so much information, all these different points that aren't necessarily relevant, and then in the end they're going to go through and they're going to think, why is that in there? This isn't relevant to this. And if everything links together and is very relevant and they can skim read it easily, then that's important. So first of all, I did a formal conversation with a doctor who was he helped me organise my sources. He was basically my mentor. So if you have one person that, like, whatever field or whatever sort of whatever your question is, so mine was medicine, if you find one person in the field that knows, who can link you to different people or who can give you lots of information. So he gave me this medical journal, and that helped me a lot. And he helped organise all my interviews, because they were people who were hard to get in contact with because they're deep in the medical field. And that I use this, I don't know what any of your topics are, but if their sort of terminology is not generally used, and if you have sort of like this is what I referred to it, because you can't really see the names, but all the different components of the knee, I had to talk about that all the way through. And so that I referred to that, and then I've also got a glossary down there at the end with I put like footnotes in if they have to. I haven't put footnotes in, but I said see glossary. Then I went on, I had 5 different companies I was talking to, 5 company representatives I was interviewing, and so basically this is the interview with the first one, the interview with the second, the interview with the third, and the fourth, and then the 5th was this doctor here. And basically that was my research. It was basically all primary sources, which is, I think, might have been what they thought was alright about it because it was relevant information. And then, yeah, at the end of every section I've just said this is where I'm up to at the moment. I think my progress is going this well. I always would comment on my progress and how I developed. And that's, yeah, and how everything was developing. And it's important that you highlight it so that they can actually, when they look at the rubric and they compare it, they can see like everything in the rubric has been shown throughout your proposal. And yes, I think it's different in your year now. I think it counts towards their ATAR, doesn't it?
It does, counts the ATAR, and that's very important because you give them the inside information of how important is the reflection, constant reflection.
Yeah, it's important because that's what they look for, because that's the whole point of this research project, is you're trying to develop research skills and you're trying to develop, coming into year 12, you want to know how to research and how to talk to people and how to sort of research in depth. And so if you show this is how I'm developing, this is how I've been researching, this is how I'm progressing, I think that's important that they want to see that. And it is actually, or for you guys, it's more important than what it was when I went through and did it, but it's important that you take it like a serious subject, because when we got our results back just recently, the amount of people that thought, I just wish I'd tried a bit harder, or I just wish that I took it more seriously was a lot. And so it is a very important thing, especially for you. At the end, I think it was compulsory for us to have a capabilities page, and basically I just went over and in depth spoke about my capabilities and how I'd referred to all the things, the reflections that I'd referred to all the way through, and spoke about how I developed. And then referencing is important. You want to reference. Basically, I just can't stress how important it is that you have primary sources, because they really, I think they look for that. That was probably, I had lots, and so I think that's just, it was lucky, fortunate that I was in the circumstance where I had people to talk to, and I think they look for that. And yeah, glossary again. If your topic's sort of not something that is generally, like language isn't generally used. So that's my folio. Do you want me to go on to the outcome?
Yes, an outcome is the substantiation of whatever you have done in your folio.
Yeah, my outcome. Yeah, basically the outcome comes right from the folio. So everything that you put in your folio, it has to be relevant. Like, you can't come to your outcome and write it and then have like a point that wasn't in your folio, because it just shows them that you don't have fluent research all the way through. So the important thing is, basically what I did is I actually had all the information and I wrote my outcome before I finalised my folio, because that way all the information that was in here that I've referenced here at the end of every page was definitely in there. So they could look at that and pair it together and understand that this all came from my research. Because if they see that we've got something in there that isn't necessarily from your research, they'll just wonder how you got it and how well you actually carried out the project overall. Yeah, so I summarised basically what my project was and gave an overview on, a statistical overview on basically what the circumstance was, and basically just an overview of my topic. And then I went into talking about how I researched, and basically it is an outcome. You just say, I found this, this is a table of results here. I put in some diagrams to just explain things that, it was only one diagram, but I felt that was relevant to go in there. And made sure I referenced everything, and then had my big bibliography there, as well as a glossary, because once again, it's hard for them to understand what I'm actually saying. And then referred it to figures here, so basically I've got, a septic loosening, or not so relevant here, but a condyle cut, where it takes place. I've got figure 2 and 3. I've highlighted it in pink. There's the medial condyle there, and that's where the condyle cut's made. And then green, it's relevant. If someone really wanted to look at this in depth, they could refer to this. If someone wanted to get a knee replacement, for example, they'd be able to look at this, find which company is the best for them, and then refer to the, whatever the problem is in their knee, refer to the diagram. And so basically you want to make it that people can take the outcome and they can actually use it to benefit from it.
So you did really treat your outcome as if it would be a scientific paper.
Yes.
And that's the proper way. You're trying to treat your outcome as your preliminary thesis.
Yeah. So if if someone wanted to take it and read it and use it, it would be relevant to them to do that, and they could hopefully, it's complex, it was complex for me to understand because going into it I didn't know, and I still don't know everything off by heart. I'd have to reread it, and because it's complex medical sort of terminology, but they could refer to it, and I just made sure that there weren't any gaps left. You've got to make sure that everything you say is sort of verified either in there or at the end in a glossary, and you reference, so nothing you say is just coming from what you think, like I think, or say something that's not verified with a fact. And I think that's very important, and that just shows that you've been researching.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.